Oh, sorry, everybody. I was just dusting my cobwebs off from being host because it's been a while. And I'm so excited to join you all. If y'all aren't here for this reason, we're here to do Nom Watch Review, part of Nom Talk Network, where on this show we review the latest film drop or throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie and snacks. It's been a while. I'm so happy to be back here hosting and this wonderful and amazing film that we're going to talk about later or pretty soon. So right now I'm having this wonderful leftover. It's a short rib pasta with like feta cheese on it. And it's like fettuccine. So I'm really excited to eat it again. It's like leftover from Valentine's Day with my mom and my niece. They had a little Galentine. So it's really awesome. And then I have my staple Nom Talk Mai Tai. That's in my corksicle. And so it's wonderful to see you all. My name is Jordyn Orozco. And yeah, I'm happy to have two veterans, wonderful and amazing people that are part of Nom Talk here. We have Erric and we have Alejandro. It is so wonderful to see you two. Erric, what are you doing? Where have you been? What are you nomming on? What's going on?
Busy dealing with snow today. We got a foot here. So,
Oh yeah,
kind of cold.
you're in Colorado, right?
Yep. So all of us just kind of got snowed in. But just work, life, pop on here occasionally. But I am drinking a Laughing Lab beer. I don't know if you can see that. There you go.
Ooh,
Lab
how
beer.
cute.
Super delicious. Love it. And my partner and his sister are making homemade soup right now. So it smells delicious. And I'm gonna eat that once we finish this.
That sounds yummy. I wish I had homemade soup. And Alejandro, it is so good to see you again. So good to
Yeah.
have you guesting on this freaking thing. What are you doing? What are you nomming on?
I'm super excited. Thank you for coming back because I always miss working with both of you guys. Today, I have a little bit of dueling here. I love Coca-Cola, you know me, but I don't need my system to shut down. So, producer stuff's made me drink some water. So, I got to hydrate so I don't dehydrate, my friends. Along with that, I have some yummy, delicious Domino's pizza, a little pepperoni and ham, and some artery clogging goodness, such as deep fried chili cheese tater tots and a little bit of ranch. So as I talk about this fantastic movie with you guys, I'm going to actually make my heart rate slow down a little bit.
I love
I
that.
hesitate to tell you this, but they have a pizza that's half pizza, half the crazy cheese bread now, and it comes in one pizza. It's
Okay.
delicious. You guys should get it
Why?
soon. Oh,
Why'd you
I
say that?
gotta do it. I gotta do it. And for the record, two things. One, Erric, your beer with the actual golden retriever looks adorable. I think of BoJack Horseman, the golden retriever, when I see it. And
That's so
dude,
cute.
I love it. I love it. Dude, Jordyn, I'm thinking about like you're talking about your short rib pasta. It's gonna taste extra good because it's marinated with all that love from Valentine's Day. So you just really yum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which I was on a Galentine's and had like it was family love because it was like my niece and
Totally.
my mom. So it
Yeah,
was like, oh, it just felt
that's
so much
cute.
better. Yeah.
Right on.
I'm that's hilarious that you have Domino's, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because so I was at a work event before this and I had to like
Uh-huh.
rush home to get here because
Yeah.
we're doing Black History Month at the
Uh-huh.
college and all that stuff, and we were
Heck
showing
yeah.
Wakanda Forever, which if you haven't seen that, fucking go watch it. It's on Disney
Oh,
Plus. It is an amazing film. But
oh yeah.
my coworker who's full time was getting Domino's for everybody, and she didn't know I was leaving early, so she was like, "Do you want your own pizza?" And I was like, oh,
yeah.
yes, but I have to go.
Oh
But
no.
yes, I want the fat pizza, please. The artery clogging pizza with ranch and blue cheese on the side, please. Because it's just that's what Domino's is.
Delicious.
Um, yes, absolutely. But it's so good to see you two. I'm so excited to get into this. If y'all don't know what we're talking about from the promos, from my background, right? We are talking about the 1998 film, The Wedding Singer, with Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, Alexis Arquette, Christine Taylor, etc., and the entire cast. This film definitely brings back so many memories, so many nostalgia, but it's also just like one of those films where like if you run into somebody that hasn't seen it, you're like, you just have to watch it just because it's so stupid, but also one of the most hilarious films you will ever see. And it's actually like I don't know. It just like it's absolutely amazing, and I'm so happy that I get to host and do this. And so leading up to the film and sort of like thinking about when it comes on TV, right? I know Alejandro, you were saying earlier that like whenever it comes on TV or whenever you see it, you have to just watch it, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of those films, right, where it's not necessarily like it's not one of the best films, but when it's on, you're like, oh, you have to like no matter what part it's at, right? Like it could be in the middle of the movie, it could be at the end of the movie, right? Like you have to just sit there and watch it, right? It's got like come on, you have Billy Idol in like one of the last scenes, right? That's just like you hear his music throughout the whole thing, and then like you get to see him, and he's like an actual star in this thing, right? Like you have so many like 1980s like just freaking references to a whole lot of things, right? That were just completely and 100% relevant at the time of sort of like this, sort of historic era, right? That we can say because we're in 2023, scarily.
God.
And so in the 80s, which was what, like 40 years ago, which is absolutely insane.
Oh my God.
You shush.
Wait, lower your tone.
I feel attacked right now. I don't appreciate
no, like, yeah, and that's what it is. And so, let's start with you, Alejandro. What were your thoughts leading up to this film? What was your experience with experiencing this film? First and foremost, what's going on?
Man, I know it's hard. It's hard. I can't necessarily remember exactly the time I saw this film. That's the weird thing about this. I have like you said, I have an odd enough connection to this film in which I may not have this. I don't have this on DVD in my DVD collection. I don't have this in digital, but every time it's on, I recite word from word of what happens, and it like automatically happens. It's like a switch. It's so strange. Forget the slap there. Listeners, I apologize. I will make sure I don't slap my hands again so I don't hurt anybody's ears. But the fact, how dare producer Steph's like, I'm watching you. But that being said, like the film comes on, I have to see it. I will say, Erric and Jordyn, you guys both mentioned this previously off before we started streaming, that some of this could have aged a little better down the line, and we'll get a little more specific about that later. I totally agree with that. But given the history of the people filming it, given the individuals filming it at hand, and they're addressing certain comic things in the past, I still love watching it, and I will say there's certain things you say, like to me, I have to say there's certain characters we'll discuss a little later don't get justice. I think it's like, hey, you should be doing that first place. They lay off in a sense. But that being said, I was digressing a little bit. I really enjoyed this film actually just as a whole, mainly because of its quick slap comedy. Some of it's obviously raunchy, but they make it like, hey, this is not a children's film. This is obviously what we're aiming at. A lot of the comedy, that majority of it aged pretty decently, given that they could have been changed in general. But like I said, I have a lot of positive feelings about the film so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make a good point where it's like this isn't like your average like family film, which is weird because I saw it when I was little with my parents, like in the same room, and it wasn't. But the thing is it wasn't like Caddyshack, right? Where it was like I definitely couldn't watch that with my parents when I was a kid, right? Like, but this one, it was almost family friendly, but not to the point where it was like I could understand what was going on, and my parents could explain it to where it was just like, okay, cool, like this is going on, blah blah blah. And but I feel like the '80s was very much how this film represents it, where it was like you had all these characters, right, that would come out, that would do this stuff. People were crazy. They were wearing freaking outfits. They were doing the hair. They were doing this. They were good, doing that. And it wasn't weird. And I think that's what like makes this film just so relatable in a lot of other ways, where it was just like, cool, like, yeah, you can watch this with like your mom and your dad. Yeah, they cuss. Yeah, they like make sexual references, but it's not like I'm not gonna fucking get them, as a kid, right? Like I'm not gonna get them unless it was explained to me. And then much older, I was like, oh yeah, like I get it now. So, Erric, let's go to you. What was your first experience with the film? How were you introduced to The Wedding Singer?
Much like you guys, like I just remember watching this as a kid. It was pretty much Adam Sandler's heyday of all of these films. This film, like, all of them. He was having his top, so we watched him. Not a child-friendly film that we should have watched, probably, but we did anyway. But I just like Alejandro said, like when this movie comes on, I watch it just because it's that good time feeling. Mm-hmm. Like I was very surprised I don't have it in my collection either. It was on HBO, and I'm like, okay, let's watch it on there. But my partner was watching with me while we were getting ready for this, and he's not the biggest Adam Sandler fan. but he got like caught up into it to where he was pausing it when he would go get something, come right back to it, and he laughed because it is good. I think that was a lot to do with Drew Barrymore, though.
We love it, Drew.
that
do love
natural
it.
innocence, right?
Yes.
She's great. She's great.
Yes. Q Ball's in the chat. Hi, Q. We love you. Thank you so much for being here
Q's
and being
in the house.
awesome. Oh no. Q says, "Hey all, I can't wait to get into this. One of the best Adam Sandler movies ever. I always crush on Drew Barrymore." Yeah, absolutely. This is like young Drew Barrymore. Like, I think this was after, that whole, thing and everything. And I'm glad she was in this film because I don't think it was almost like Never Been Kissed, where it was like it wouldn't have been the film that it was without Drew. And this is exactly one of those films. And I loved her in this. And the gays were all about Drew. I know the gays were all about Drew if you watch this, right? Besides, George, who was Alexis Arquette, right? And so yeah, absolutely, total crush on Drew, for that. So, oh gosh, there's so much to cover. So, for those of you that don't know, like the premise of The Wedding Singer, basically we get introduced in a very 80s style way to Adam Sandler. In the beginning, he's definitely a wedding singer. Back then, which we kind of still have that, but we don't now. Where it's like we hire bands, we hire DJs, right? But back then, you would hire a wedding singer who would bring their band to do the songs and everything that would be at your wedding. And we kind of still do that, like nowadays, but more it's a little bit modern, a little bit more, like funky, hip, all that stuff. And he does not only weddings, he does bar mitzvahs, he does, every other thing around, that you would need a singer for. He does that. And if you know anything about weddings, you have people that can contract wedding singers to, your event, or you have people that can hire them independently, and the people at the venue can have other individuals who, oh my God, River's trying to get in under the door, and it's the cutest thing. Sorry. By the way, River is the Nom Talk cat. And she's trying to get in the door, and I kind of want to let her in. And she's just like, her paws are like under the door, like where the things are. So after I finish, I'm gonna let her.
Pancake, my cat, is doing the exact
Oh
same
my
thing.
God, she's so cute. I love her.
I'm jealous because I don't have a cat.
Yeah. So basically, you would so this is how Drew and Adam meet, right? This is how they meet, and they're like having a good time and doing all that stuff, and then it ends up being that like Drew Barrymore has a husband, like that has a fiance who's like a complete douchebag. He's an asshole. He's a fucking idiot, right? Like he's your typical frat boy, stupid ass who like has a girlfriend and is like, oh, I cheat on my girl all the time. And then they sort of get to know each other. Drew has a sister who's like a little bit of a harlot, who I love, and I love. She was I can't remember her name at the moment. Oh, Christine Taylor, who I love, who's married to Ben Stiller, by the way. Are they still married?
Yeah, I know they're still married.
That's cute.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Isn't it cute? Yeah, and they were in Dodgeball together, which I was like, oh my God, so funny.
Dodgeball, Zoolander.
Yes, absolutely. And then you just have this plethora of a cast that basically adds to everything, right? Adam Sandler in the very beginning, he's engaged to, what was her name? He's engaged to Linda, who's like this, like, oh, I love you because like you represent like all this like rock god stuff, and then like basically she doesn't show up to the wedding, and like it's devastating for him. So he's like sad. Drew Barrymore's there, like it's like boy meets girl, like all that stuff, and then it's just kind of like it's a way that like two people come together in a way that you wouldn't normally have this sort of like interaction with one another, and then they find out that they're in love with each other. What did we think about the story, like in general? Did we think that it was a story that was good? Did we think that it needed work? I know you all had mentioned it was like a sign of the times and that some things needed to age better. And I'd really be interested to hear about that. So Erric, I know you sort of had that sort of, thought process about that. So what did you think about the story?
I thought the story still is still very good. Pacing of it was very good. Like we all said,
I'm here.
Hold on. Watch this when it's on. My issue comes to it like Alexis Arquette, like the treatment of her throughout the movie and everything like that. That really didn't age well. Just a couple of jokes here and there throughout the movie. Just at the time when this movie was out, made perfect sense. Everybody was doing it. But now, this day and age, there's a lot of movies like that you're just like, that's a little uncouth. Maybe we can change that. But it's still a great movie. Loved it. Loved the characters. I think this is Drew and Adam's first time ever working together, actually.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool because they've had a long lasting career, like 50 First Dates, all of that. Like, they work together constantly. And I also appreciate that, even seeing this, everybody that is Adam's friend has still come up with him. All the friends, the limo driver, the guys at the wedding, Steve Buscemi, everything, they always come with him through all his films. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry. My mom was letting the cat in because she was in it. She's like, she wants to go in. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I loved about it, and I loved 50 First Dates. I loved that movie. I loved it, and that for sure came out after all this, after all this had happened. And you're right, this was at like the peak of like when Adam Sandler was doing like Little Nicky. He was doing what's that other one where he was the kid? He was like he was the dad, but he acted like as a kid or something.
Big Daddy. Big Daddy?
Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Well, there's Big Daddy, but there's the other one you're talking about too. Oh my goodness gracious. Where he goes back to school.
Yes. That one. No,
that's Billy Madison. There's so many good ones.
Yeah,
Happy Gilmore.
I know, and that's the thing. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you have Adam Sandler, and then you have like Ben Stiller, who did all of those, like Something About Mary, who did it was like the Throwback Kid or the something kid that he did, and you have these like weird nostalgic films that had happened during this time and like later that were like complete staples of like my childhood, right? Where like people would make references to this shit, right? And it just was absolutely amazing. And I definitely agree with you though. I think this was the time of like it was pre like gay rights, and then also like homophobia that was like going on, right? Like with like everything that had happened. And as a kid, and what I loved about my parents and watching this was there was never any mention, and there was never any like point to be like, oh, that's a dude, or oh, that's this. And I was like, and I kind of appreciated that because my dad listened to Boy George, right? Like I grew up on Boy George, right? And my dad did tell me, he was like, oh yeah, that's a dude, but he wears makeup and it's okay. Like, and that's totally fine. But he makes really good music. And like I grew up listening to Culture Club, right? Like I grew up listening to all that. So when I would see it, it wasn't a thing for me. And not that it shouldn't be, but it wasn't necessarily something that I would point at and be like, that's weird, right? Like, because that's something that growing up with my parents that I appreciated was like they never would say like that was not the norm, or that wasn't something that I shouldn't like be or aspire to, right? And so that's kind of what I appreciated about this film, and watching it with my folks is just like it was just funny. It was just a comedic film, and that's what it was. And so I kind of appreciate that. Alex, let's get to you. What did you think about the story? What did you think about sort of the things that we've been talking about?
Well, straight after why it's still in my mind, I want to talk about really quick. Just that's my major complaint about the film is George himself. The reason why I said that, what George, just her treatment. The reason why I say this is that, oh my God, the cat, so adorable.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Don't apologize. It's so adorable. It's so adorable. I believe, when in the same way, I love my parents to death for explaining the same way to me. It was hi, it didn't explain. It was more like, oh, what's going on? It's like, oh yeah, guy makeup, that's what they're wearing. It shouldn't be a big deal. And when I say it shouldn't be a big deal, they didn't physically say that, but it was a real plain explanation. And I was like, okay. The funny thing about that though was my laughing of that particular scene was how often he's saying the song, that how often the same song was repeated again and again and again. And I thought that was hilarious. And the funny thing is, as I got older, I was trying to figure out why people were giving George disgusted looks, because I was like, I'm confused. And I said, because now everything clicked to me, because the way my parents explained it was not in a hateful way. It was comedic to me because of the song that George was singing. And then it eventually just naturally over and over again, and naturally came to me going, people are treating him George kind of shitty just because the way it looked, but I think the fucking song is hilarious because it repeats over and over and over again. And which I was telling producer Steph earlier today, where when I was watching the films a couple of times over, I said even some of the backup songs that like George sings in, it's so adorable because he says, "Hey," just have that little particular thing. Which, however, if you notice, George was totally respectful during the bar mitzvah. Did not do any backup singing. Let Adam Sandler do the whole thing, and we did just cute smiles and did the whole thing. The whole band did. And I was like, okay, maybe that was like interesting in that level.
What I have to find funny about George is repeats the same song over and over, doesn't know any other song, but can play the trumpet, the clarinet.
Clarinet, trombone. I think it was like trombone.
Exactly. But but I mean, I digress. We could talk about George all day. Fantastic character. Treated wrong in George's own rights. But that being said, the storyline to me was almost cookie cutter until the comedic aspects added the twist to it. And that's why I really appreciated the story. Like you said, unusual boy is in a different relationship, girls in a different relationship, different points of times of lives, intertwine, one's available, one's not, one's available, one's not, intertwines, classic comeback, boy chases after it. Now, kind of like familiar formula, right? However, I think the comedic aspects of it, characters of George, characters of the brother-in-law, the sister, adding in there the sweet old lady that he's teaching how to sing, doing her 50th wedding anniversary, and gives him the meatballs in his hands. These concepts are degrading, delusional, and hilarious. Yet if they weren't there, they wouldn't be the story. So I definitely have to say that I really enjoyed the storyline for it, and it's one of those things where once again I kind of want to kick myself for not buying this film. It's one of those films and I can't say I'm a huge fan. Like I honestly I'm a fan, but I don't own it or anything. But as we're talking over and over again, I'm like, why don't I own it? But that being said, love the storyline. Think that little twist, the comedic twist and turn that Adam Sandler does in a lot of his movies. I think this one's a little bit more original than some of his others. But regardless, I'm gonna watch it again. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? Where like it doesn't matter. I don't know. I could literally be in the shittiest mood ever, and then this film comes on, and then it's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And
the song "Love Stinks" it's so horrible, but it's funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
How much did I need you? And then stop. Oh my god. Yeah, and bullshit. That was hilarious. But then, but the thing that is so cute and is so beautiful is that Drew Barrymore's sitting there like, she's just loving it.
Yeah,
she's loving it, and I'm like, oh my god. And I think this film, it's like the small little things that like, I'm like, oh, like so cute. Like so, for example, this scene behind me kills me every time. I have to pee after I hear George goes, "Oh God, oh God."
The fact his eyeliner's already that far in that 10-second process.
Yes. And then, like, literally just from the mirror breaking, oh God, oh no. And but then, like, the old lady that like helps him, or that's like his student, is like, it's okay, you're fine. And like this grown ass person is like, I love it. I just love it. Oh my God, my cat's trying to attack my empty bowl. So give me 1 second as I put that. Let's talk about the cast, right? So we've already mentioned Adam Sandler. We've already mentioned Drew Barrymore. I love Sammy's character, who is played by Alan Covert. And then let's talk about obviously Glenn Guglia, who's Matthew Glave. We also got Angela Featherstone as Linda. We have Alexis Arquette, as we have mentioned before, as George. And all these other just fantastic like side characters that come in and add sort of like an oomph to the film. What do we think about the casting? Alejandro, let's start with you. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I thought, there wasn't, and especially the two kids that are like his, like, dude. I think they're like his like nephews or something like that. Yeah. So me and my friends, every time we're having like a mental health crisis, we go, mental breakdown. And then
one of my favorites too one of my favorite things to do with people is just to be like, Aunt Linda, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
You're a bitch. She's like,
You're a bitch. And with
you're a
that
bitch.
grin, oh my god. No, you're right. These characters are decently fleshed out for their 30-second intervals that they're pulled throughout the whole film. I think the film is somewhere like an hour 41 minutes, but the point is
Yeah.
it's if they weren't there, this film wouldn't be what it is.
Mm-mm.
It's another thing I get about this, whether it's the brother-in-law, whether it's the sister, whether it's the two nieces, are whether I'm sorry, two nephews, whether it's the like I said, you have the limo driver happens to be like the friend of the family supposedly, right? And even the brother-in-law, classic mobster himself. I've never seen him put so much emotion in a 30-second monologue when he's talking to Adam Sandler, going, listen, me and your sister don't have much as passion as we used to. Like, we used to be like horrible, dirty. And then in that 30 seconds, he's like, his eyes are just like, oh man, I don't know what I said. What did I say? So it's just that whole, like, this the persona is the classic brother-in-law that doesn't get your situation, and you're like, all right, well, I guess you're here for me because you're family, So I mean, there's that, and not to say every brother-in-law in the world's like that, because I got some excellent uncles. I don't think they're anyway like that, but like, just you still see that family connection, You have that. You're talking about her sister. She's the classic, sexy, sassy. I'm the person that always gets my attention of, let's say, individual. So for her to be there, to always be that individual that gets Adam Sandler's temporary attention, or pulls Drew Barrymore to be like, hey, he's technically mine, but he's not mine. I thought that she was a perfect character to be that individual. The perfect moments of being there, just like the bar scene in which Drew Barrymore is going to throw up. She's being that classic, not only sister but good person, individual. Be there for her. Hey, let's go take care of her. Were you really realizing that Mr. Goulian himself is being an asshole, checking out the waitress's tush while she's turning over, and Adam Sandler really taking in that moment, saying, hey, I don't know, because he's kind of wanting to get involved at that point, and he kind of not. But the only reason why I digress with that particular scene, but it's always those characters. If Glenn wasn't the true dick he was in his little, I think it wouldn't have the proper motivation of a villain to want to head and just like, hey, take that privilege, take that douche, take that toxic masculinity. I mean, there's like so many negative aspects of individual that you could go ahead and become villainous on this guy. And I'm going to be real with it. They make this character downright hateful. There's no, hey, his mother could have treated him right. And don't get me wrong, we understand that people could be, even bad guys could have families, but they did a really good job of making this guy unlikable. And the fact that he actually took that persona, because like half his lines are literally like maybe 6 or 7 lines going, yeah, I can bag her, or I've had younger. And the thing is that that's a douchebag concept, toxic thing to say, but the way he delivers it, you're like, oh, I freaking hate you. So it's like you kind of feeling the that little vibrant fire like Adam Sandler half the time. But yeah, I think all the characters that they just add so well, even to little hip hop lady with the meatballs. I love it. I freaking love it. Every little character has a purpose, and not just like a, I'm here to be funny. It's I'm funny and I'm memorable. So yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I feel like the main characters are great, but like it's the side things for me, like the moments, the characters that like just make a little, like, you know what I mean, like that are supporting actors in this film that are just absolutely amazing, beautiful, and make the funniest scenes, right? Like I die at fucking George in the very fucking beginning, right? Like, and that's just the side character, like never shows up besides being in the band, right? Like, and like, you do get the moments where it's like, oh, that's funny, that's cool with the main characters, but yeah, absolutely. Eric, what did you think about the casting? What did you think about side characters, or any sort of like addition added on to the casting?
No, I think the casting's brilliant. I think Adam Sandler's always been very good at that throughout all of his movies, of getting people who know comedic timing, but also if they're like Gulia, no, they're not going to be always funny. They're going to be the villain, but they know how to play off each other well. Even his side characters, like you were saying, like when he was singing Love Stinks, and even the tables and everything like that, everybody is thought of throughout. If they're going to be looked at, be talking, anything like that, he's thinking about that. It's so freaking good. Honestly, Adam Sandler has a brilliant mind for that, mind for casting. Well, did his later films, I don't know, but
yeah,
this time, in his heyday here, he had a brilliant mind for casting and knowing what was going to work.
Yeah, hold on. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Sorry, I didn't let the cat out because River the freaking Nom Talk cat.
Don't let the cat out of the
How
bag.
dare you be a human being, sir? Jeez, I swear.
I'm just like, God, like pick and choose. Like go outside, stay there, or come in here and stay here. I can't do it right now.
Nom
It's like
Talk
having
the
kids. That's why I don't have kids.
cat.
Yeah, no, she's literally the Nom Talk cat. Ever since I've had her, like as a kitten, she's always been like like in this thing, and I'm like, oh come on, I'm like streaming. So yeah, yeah, I feel like without certain characters in this film, it wouldn't have been what it's been, right? And I feel like the casting was like spot on in like some places and in some ways. And you're right, like there's some things where you're like, why are you a mobster, bro? Oh, okay, like it makes sense. Like in this moment, it makes sense in this time, and he's just like, cool, it's like a thing, right? Um, but yeah, there's so many quotes from all these side characters that I've had, and it's been absolutely just like memorable in creating these quotes. Cue Ball says for me, it's a 5 out of 5. It's a so we're gonna get to popcorn bucket. Thanks, Q. Thanks for reminding me. It's a comedy classic, and it took place in a time of big hair, big music, and especially the 80s pop and rock music era. The music took me back to a place I remember from my childhood growing up in a musical family. I mean, the performances from Adam and Drew are amazing and perfect. Their chemistry is so perfectly matched. Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. I want to get to the music because that's what made this for me. Like every single, like, we start out with, Spin Me Right Round, right? Like, we start out
Yeah.
with that. We get like Depeche Mode, we get the psychedelic furs, right? Like, we get Billy Idol, right? We get all of these wonderful and amazing like moments in music history, right? Like in the 80s, where I feel like, and then we get Hall and Oates, right? When they're like doing cake tasting and we're doing like all that stuff, right? Like the music that like my parents listen to and like love and know, like, and the ones that I like grew up knowing and love, like we get this introduced in this film, and I think it's like it just adds for me like the nostalgia, like when I hear it, and I'm like, oh, that was in The Wedding Singer, right? Like, and even like Culture Club, like when George, do you really wanna hurt me? It's like it's just nostalgia, like it's amazing, it's awesome. And I think thank you, Q, for bringing it up, is like the music itself is amazing. Before we get into that, let's do popcorn readings because it's been a while and I forgot that we do popcorn readings on doing a movie. So let's start with Eric. Eric, what would you give this movie?
I would give this movie a 4 out of 5 popcorns, only because I said like a couple of things have not aged as well. But other than that, it's a great movie, and I'd recommend it to everybody. Like, it's a must
Absolutely.
watch.
Absolutely. Alejandro, what would you rate this film?
Originally, I said 5 out of 5. I'm still 5 out of 5. Maybe a little later because I'm thinking about seeing it. It's really hard to dislike it. Mainly because
You
like
change your popcorn
I
rating?
know, maybe I don't know, maybe it's just 5 out of 5 right now. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, and for me, I would do a 4.5 out of 5, only because you're right. Like, so my best friend and her husband had never seen this movie, and I was appalled. And I was like, "You need to watch this." So we like went over to her house. We like took an edible, right? Like we had like drinks and dinner, and we watched this, and it ended up being like a really fun night, right? Like, and they were like, "Wow, like I didn't expect that from this movie." And it's like, I know, like you don't expect, like you see Adam Sandler and like Drew Barrymore on like the front, and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be fucking stupid, like it's gonna be corny." And then you watch it, and you're like, "There's some funny fucking moments," which is why I'm like, we always say to each other, "Nervous breakdown, nervous breakdown," and cuckoo's nest, because sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna go insane, and then we'll say
Cool,
that to
mental
each other, and then we'll
institution.
laugh. Yeah, and then like it'll be fine. And um, yeah, it just like this. Yeah, so I just give it a 4.5 out of 5. Also because like I keep saying this word, but nostalgic reasons. Like me and my mom and my dad, like this was the film that we could like sit together and watch and like just die laughing, because there's just moments where like it's timeless, and like the jokes that happen are great. So let's go to you, Eric, first. What did you think about the music choices? Did it like get you in the mood? Was it an addition? Did you think they could have done more? How did you feel about that?
No, I mean, this is like you said, this is parents my music my parents grew up on, so I've known this music my entire life. I completely forgot that they had Journey at the beginning for his wedding song, "Don't Stop
Yeah.
Believing," and piano form. I was just like, wait, that's okay. But like that, every song he picked was great 80s, like classic 80s popular. Everybody's gonna know that from that time era. And it just, I want the soundtrack now. I forgot how much I liked it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you look up the soundtrack and you're like, there's so many good hits on this soundtrack, right? Alejandro, how'd you feel about it? How'd you feel about the music? How'd you feel about, how it added to the film?
I'm ashamed to say, like, what I mean to ashamed to say is I don't necessarily know all the titles of the song. However, what I am a big fan of is just hearing them immediately and it just, popping and clicking with
Yeah.
it. Now, I will say this film introduced me to remixes. I was around 10ish or so when this film came out. And for me, I was like, oh my God, these songs are familiar. And I was like bobbing my head. I was like, wait a minute, is this this is not, I can't believe it's this song. So
Yeah.
it kind of introduced the remix concept to me, introducing to 80s. So I was an 80s baby, hypothetically speaking, but growing up wise, more of a 90s kid. That being said, it was really cool because I was listening to this music that I was familiar with because of my family and my parents, but at the same time, I was hearing it from a different perspective. And I loved this. It was like, oh, you can actually change this up and it sounds kind of cool. So it definitely opened my eyes to remixes in general for the first time. As weird as that may sound, I think this is honestly the film that did it for me. But the soundtrack is great. It's one of those things in which, like, even if you, what happened? Oh God.
Oh God. So yeah, because okay. Nom Talk Network redeemed. You're so punny. Alejandro must do the pun joke.
Let's do a pun joke. Let me think about this. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm so excited.
Now, hear me out as I talk about this music. That's kind of lame. I need a better one. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Oh my God, guys, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of a good pun.
It's okay, you can wait. By the
Okay.
way, as
Go
Alejandro
ahead.
no, as Alejandro thinks about it, I'm really mad I didn't get the nail polish memo because both you and Eric are wearing nail polish, and I'm really mad about it.
Actually, my partner went and took me to get my nails done, and I've done something I've never done before.
Yeah, see, this is my nail polish. See this?
I
Yeah.
got
No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
Producer
Just kidding.
Steph did mine.
like
I love it.
I have long nails.
Oh,
I
you have claws.
I do.
I
No.
love it. You could fuck a
I
bitch up.
don't. I'm learning.
I love it. Yeah, I'm really mad I didn't paint my nails. So, anyway, okay. So Alejandro, do we have a pun joke from you?
But I don't know. But like, it does that question, producer Steph, in regards, does it have to be related to the film or just a pun in general? Oh my God. I hate when you put on the spot because I go blank. I will come back. I will come up with the pun. I will do with it. Give me a second. I still gotta think of it. I've got to do it. I got it before.
Everybody,
before
Alejandro owes us the pun. So
oh, you pun. I'm gonna write this down. Somebody back me up. Hold on. Oh my God.
No, Jordyn, while he's thinking about that, I do have to say though, one of my about the characters and everything like that. I don't know why, since I was a little kid, the old woman has always made me so sad. Like I feel bad for her. I don't know why, but she's always wanted to make me cry in every movie I've ever seen her in. She's always wanted to make me cry. I'm just like, she's so sweet, and I just want to like squeeze her. She's like a little kid.
Like a pimple. You just want to squeeze her.
No, like a puppy, like a really cute puppy.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Real quick here, why it's on my mind, so I don't like disappoint everybody. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna throw in a joke pun here to get this over with real quick. Hey, so guys, why did the boy throw the clock out the window? Because he wanted to see time fly. Ha 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 ha. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. You forgive me, and I poor Q has probably heard a horrible pun, horrible like song from me. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Eric. I apologize for shutting down.
Oh no, I was vamping for you, Alejandro.
I don't like the look of that.
What?
No, not third person.
Oh God.
Please tell me it's not that. Please tell me it's not that. I'm not watching.
What is it?
I'm too.
Is it third person?
Hold on. I'm too tired. Okay. Cue ball redeem sing mode.
God.
Theme.
Wait, and Steph is laughing, and that's okay.
I don't know what this means.
Okay,
We have to
so
sing.
I guess let's start.
Sing mode. Sing mode. I
So you have to
thought you
sing.
said thing.
Yeah. So whatever you
Okay,
have to talk about, and whatever we're talking about, we have to sing. So just
yeah,
remember, it has to
I'm
be a
trying to
little
sing.
tune.
I'm trying to sing in the style of '80s, and I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to sing. Oh, okay. Okay.
We have to sing in the style of 80s.
What I loved about this film is that it was great and funny and fantastic. And oh, poor producer Steph is looking at me all crazy because she doesn't like my tunes. Makes me a little sad because I'm trying to talk about this song with a smile. I'm sorry, I can't do this.
I love that we're talking about the wedding singer. And I love that we're gonna talk about, hold on, food and drinks in the film. Okay, so I like the scene where Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler are eating cake and then have to shove it in the yellow teeth lady's face, and it was great. And we've talked about meatballs, and we've talked about other balls. So I'm gonna pass it to Alejandro because he loves my way of talking about food.
Oh,
Alejandro, what did you think about the food?
I thought the food was great and amazing. Other the fact the cute little lady put the meatballs in her hands and then she put the meatballs in her hands. Wait, no, hold on.
She put the balls in her hands.
Put the meatball in the hand and Adam Sandler ate them all up. She put the meatball in his hands and they shook them all up. Huh, I don't know. The whole point. The point. How long do we have to sing? This has been like almost 3 minutes now. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
Q. I love you, but man, you make me sweat, sir. Oh my lord. I bow to Lord Q with
that is the point. That was like when I logged on my birthday and made them do third person. I was like, I'm such an asshole.
So
I don't care.
No, I'm a mean one because I occasionally catch the streams. I'll pop up on my phone. I'll just log on, throw something in for them to do, and then leave.
It's you.
We know who you are. Hey everybody, cue ball redeemed hydrate. So we gotta hydrate. So as we reach the tail end of our sort of wonderful conversation and wonderful review about the wedding singer, I just want to like do any last minute thoughts, but also what you would suggest to somebody who hasn't seen this film. How would you explain it to them? I think this film is wonderful by itself. I think, besides the, critical points that we've brought up, I think, just watching it for itself, it's just a funny film. Like, it's just one of those feel good films where you can watch it and not feel bad, like at the end. And it kind of just helps. I definitely want to bring up the fact that like Billy Idol is like in first class and he's like with Robbie and like talking to him about like what's going on, and then they basically find out that like she's on the same flight with Glenn, and like one of my favorite parts is goes, oh yeah, he looks like somebody that just wants to blah blah blah, join the Mile High Club, blah blah blah, and then the woman goes, what's the Mile High Club? And Billy Idol goes, just like, you're such a pig, and I love it. But I love the fact that like, he gets on the intercom and he says, hello everybody, I hope that you're enjoying your flight today. And then like Julia's like that sounds like Billy Idol. Okay, it's not Billy Idol. And then he starts playing and then she realizes it, and then it's beautiful, and there it is from there. And I kind of liked just the how it ended and all that stuff, and it's just a beautiful film all around, and it's also just hilarious. Any last minute thoughts? Let's start with you, Alejandro, on the wedding singer.
I fully agree with you guys. Excuse me for my little squirm here. I think I'm about to get a Charlie horse, so I might like go left and right. But that being said, as I have some of my little personal aneurysms here, I honestly, anybody who hasn't seen the film, one song that is definitely, I think Adam Sandler's like one of his top songs that he's created is "Grow Old with You." Oh my God, it's a tearjerker. It's
I
funny,
love
but you
it.
listen over and over again, it will make the remote control look like a epic love concept of giving to somebody. It's ridiculous. Fantastic little end song there. The whole movie seems like it's improvised, but not. It is, if these
Mm,
situations didn't happen the way they, if like they changed the lines, the movie may not be the same, you know.
yeah.
I still think I would watch it, of course, but I do think that it is very memorable for that reason. Anywhere from Billy Idol's having that biker save him, leave Billy
Yeah.
alone, shoving the cart
Leave
into,
Billy alone.
exactly, into Mr. Gulia douchebag face himself. You have that, but yeah, it's just a great, I would say a great storyline, great delivery. Once again, I do agree with both of you. It some of 90% of the comedy aged pretty well. The other 10%, please kind of, let's hopefully, it's one of those things. I hate saying it, and it's one of the, it was a jokes of the time that we understand now weren't exactly kind or proper to shove in somebody's face, just because
Yeah.
somebody's different. So obviously they're making jokes because somebody's different. Now we know that it's not funny. But other than that, it's hard to really rag on this film. Yes, it's classic Adam Sandler, but this was Adam Sandler before he made his other 30 films, which resort to this and 50 First Dates are great staples along with Billy Madison. And this will definitely have to be the foundation of Adam Sandler's work that a lot of people compare the other films to.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I also want to point out the scene that was like really devastating, but also
Oh.
really funny at the same time was when Julia is in her dress in her room, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Julia Cowie," and she just starts crying, and I was like, "That's fucking hilarious." But I feel you, girl. I feel you. Like I feel, and then she goes, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Robbie Hart," and I was like, "Oh my god." Yeah, but the fact that her name was Julia Gulia, so me and my best friend will use that for somebody that's like not really happy and like ends up it's just like, oh, she's a Julia Gulia, man.
Julia.
Yeah, and like we'll say that. It's terrible to say, but
I
like
gotta use that
it's
now.
just yeah.
Well,
Oh
I
god,
mean, but with that and with Drew Barrymore, you have Julia Gulia, and then you also have Josie Grossi. So like,
yes, Josie Grossi. Yeah, so that was one of the staple scenes where I was like, her name really would be Julia Gulia. Like, yeah. So, but I think that was definitely intentional. Eric, any last minute thoughts? Any last minute things that you would say to somebody that hasn't seen The Wedding Singer?
if you want to see early comedy in the 90s at its like heyday, this is one of the films that will do it. Because it was smart, great timing. Like we said, some of the jokes didn't age well, but like you said, Alejandro, it was a joke at the time and everybody loved it. We know better now, but still, you have to take it for what it was because they're not going to go and redo the entire movie just to change something. But no, everybody who hasn't seen this needs to watch it. For instance, my partner watched it tonight and absolutely loved it, even though he doesn't like Adam Sandler. But it's a good comedy storyline and peak Adam Sandler. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, like my best friend and husband hadn't watched this, and I was like, we're sitting down, we're taking a night, we're watching this film, and it was like, it obviously wasn't like their most favorite film, but they were just like, that actually was pretty funny, and it had moments where it was like, it's so quotable, right? Like where, it's not necessarily going to be, like yeah, like everybody needs to watch this, but it had its moments, and I think that's like what's important about this film, and something that sort of like for us, especially in this review, makes it so like when it comes on, you have to watch it, right? Like it's just like it's one of those things. So I think unfortunately that's kind of like all the time that we have for this review and talking about The Wedding Singer. I had a wonderful time it's amazing hosting again and being on this wonderful. I just clapped, and I hope that wasn't that loud because these are like really good at picking up sound. I was like, but yeah, and River the Nom Talk cat is out and being punished because she was trying to nosy her way into the review, but she says bye and thank you for letting her participate. So anyway, shout out to my guests Alejandro and Erric. Thank you all so much for freaking coming on. It's so good to see you both. Erric, I hope you're staying warm. I hope you're not getting snowed in. And Alejandro, we're in the same climate. So I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing good with this 41-degree weather that we're gonna have tonight, even though Eric's probably like in the negatives.
Like, shut up, guys.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm
you guys suck.
-6 right now.
You're at what?
-6.
Jesus Christ.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
I'm sorry. Please stay warm, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
No.
Lots of hoodies and sweaters and yeah.
Oh yeah, like I would need a mini space heater just for my blanket.
Yeah.
They make those like pants and coats now that are heated.
Oh, this thing right here. Okay, you can't see it. Hold on. Oh, you can kind of see it. This thing right here is a heated jacket, and it has a little battery pack. And I took it to work today because it's fucking cold.
Yeah,
and I had to make popcorn in the cold for all the students because that's who I am. Anyway, wow. Anyway. So thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to join our Discord to keep the conversation going, as well as subscribing to all of our platforms. They are at Nom Talk Network. And I just wanted to ask both of you, where can we find you? So Erric, where can we find you on the socials? Where can we find what you're doing?
You can find me on all socials at Heartless7. That's HARTL, the number 377 or SS. But yeah, you can find me there on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok. Got rid of my Twitter because that was just a mess. But yeah, look for me. I'm not really doing anything but working and being snowed in.
Wait, you're not doing anything besides being snowed in and dying from the -6 weather.
No,
Alejandro,
we have to
yeah, right. Alejandro, what are you up to? Where can we find you and your wonderful stuff?
So see, socials, it can be I am Cowie, so the IAMCOWIE. That would be Instagram. I post anywhere from daily content to acting monologues, comedic stuff. I also have my toy photography account. I do still toy photography and reels. That would be Cowie Collector, COWIE, Collector, COLLECTOR. Forgive me if I butchered my own spelling, but Cowie Collector. Other than that, I agree with you, Eric. Twitter's somewhat a trash fire at the moment, so I am not going to need my Twitter account yet until things are changing. So let's see what happens with that.
I love it. And you can find me on Instagram. It's CityofStars13. I post funny stories. I don't really post. I probably should more. It takes time. And like you like have to click it, and then you have to pick a picture, and then you have to put a caption, and I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. Can somebody do it for me? I just don't have time.
Somebody do it for me.
Like literally, like, can somebody do it for me? I would rather post a story that I can just be like, oh, this is funny, or me on a Monday, or Nom Talk, watch this shit tonight, right? Like that's what I would rather do. Like it's quick, it's easy, it's fun. I'm 35, I can't do this shit. So that's where you can find me though. City of Stars 13 on Instagram.
I love you, Jordyn.
I love myself sometimes and I hate it. So tune into our next show, which is going to be this Friday. It's going to be episode 9 and 10 of Junjin Ito Maniacs. And so if you watch that show, if you do wonderful things to it, please watch us on Friday. Until then, I'm your host, Jordyn Orozco, and I hope you all have a nomorific evening. Good night, y'all.